Hi my friends, my name is Tim Johnson. I want to talk about two things today quickly and share with you some tips if you like. Firstly, fear, and secondly, anxiety. I want to share with you how I've taught myself over the last 3 to 4 years how to face and overcome fear. And it's not easy, but it can be done. Fear can be debilitating. It can hold you back. It can stop your growth. It can freeze you in your tracks. And it's there for a reason. Like most things in our DNA, fear is there to protect us, if you like. Without fear, we would perhaps dive headlong into very dangerous situations and hurt and injure ourselves. So it is necessary. Fear is there in a sense to protect us. But in today's world, many of us get stuck in our fear because we're constantly projecting into the future and telling ourselves stories which magnify and almost become impossible to overcome. Either that, or we look back into our past experiences and perhaps negative outcomes, and our brain then tells us more stories. So we're looking into the future and the past, and these fears, whatever they may be, will then stop you in your tracks. They'll magnify. You'll tell yourself stories of how much pain you will be in, how it's impossible to overcome this particular obstacle, how you can't do this, because you couldn't do something in the past, or look what may happen, it's in the future. These are just stories what we tell ourselves, and they're phantoms. But they hold us back, and like I say, they stop us in our tracks, and they stopped me for many years. They stopped me from getting sober to a certain extent because, I would always look back at perhaps previous withdrawals or previous negative stuff that had happened when I tried to stop, and also when I had stopped, how much of a struggle it was, and then I'd project into the future and tell myself it was impossible, and this fear would build and build and build inside of me until my brain told me to take a step back into my comfort zone. And if you do that and don't face those fears head on, I'm not talking about jumping straight into danger necessarily, because as I say, fear's there for a reason. And it's really difficult to do, and some of you may have been facing fears for many, many years that you've been unable to attack and get into. There's a technique that I use, and I want to use an analogy here. When you go on holiday, or you live in a hot place, and you're baking hot and sweating and uncomfortable, and there's a lovely cold swimming pool or a cold sea waiting there for you, and you know in your head that once you get in, it may be uncomfortable to start with, but you're going to feel 100% better. You're going to be refreshed. You're going to, cool down and feel comfortable again. But you dip your toe in, and it's freezing cold, and you think, shit, I'm not going to get into that. You may be tiptoeing a bit and jump back out again, and then you'll stay in your comfort zone in the heat, feeling sticky and uncomfortable. Well, fear's a bit like that. And the best thing to do, I always find, and what I've taught myself to do, is just to jump straight into the water. Obviously, I'm not talking about jumping into danger where you could be hurt, killed or injured, but jumping straight into that water. And sure enough, yes, it's a shock to the system when you jump in, but in a few seconds, 30 seconds, you feel great. You feel comfortable, you feel refreshed and ready to go. And that's what fear's like. And what I do every morning, and what I have done for the past couple of years now, one thing that I do, there's many ways to face fear, but this is one way I teach myself to always front it up is I jump in a cold shower every morning. And it's not for everybody. On a freezing cold day, the last thing you want to do is jump into a cold shower. Now you can do this as a gradual process. You can get into a warm shower and switch it on to cold for 20 seconds and then extend that each day. Or you can jump into a cold shower for 10 seconds, switch it into warm, and then the next day 20 seconds, and so on and so on. But I tell you now that I now jump into that every morning for 8 to 10 minutes, freezing cold shower, and I now look forward to it. And it's not comfortable to start with, but once your brain gets used to you pushing yourself through that discomfort, if you like, facing that fear of that cold, it starts to do that with other things in your life as well. Other fears which may have held you back or certainly held me back for many years. And suddenly you find yourself, and I'm not just talking, it's not just about cold showers, it's just one way of doing it and one analogy and one technique. But I've found now that I can now walk into those fears, assess them, and I find myself more and more in the present moment, not projecting in the future, not looking back into my past and making up stories, not letting my brain tell me stories, but in that moment in time. And you find when you're in that moment and you're used to jumping into fear, that you start to do things you would never dream of doing, start to grow as you never dreamed you could grow. You overcome obstacles in your life which you thought in the past were impossible and you could never achieve, both in your career, in your family life, yourself, physical obstacles, diet, exercise, everything. You just attack with a different ferocity and mentality. And that's one way to overcome. Don't forget, fear is a phantom. It's there for a reason, as I say. Something else that's there for a reason in your DNA is the thing that causes you anxiety. Now, anxiety for many of you out there, and again for me, can be debilitating. Panic attacks and such things like that are so frightening. You think you're close to death. You think you're having a heart attack. You're literally scared for your life. And anxiety again holds us back in life in many, many situations. But it's there in our DNA, the fight or flight system that's built into us in our DNA. It's just about understanding it. Back in our evolution, in the caveman days, the fight or flight system was there for a very good reason, because if they didn't use it, they were dead. If they, trust me, if you were going to be chased by a giant lion or whatever other animal, or another tribe of human beings or whatever, and you're fighting for your life, that flood of adrenaline, that cortisol that floods your body, that increased heart rate, though that energy and that focus and intensity will save your life. It's that system that allows mothers to lift things off their children that are impossible for strong men to lift. When that adrenaline floods the system, fight or flight, it's there to save your life. The problem is, in modern society, that we're constantly in that state. It's a physiological state, that fight or flight, that adrenaline flood, that anxiety, that stress. It's a physiological state. We think it's mental, but it affects our whole body, not just our minds. And we're in that state because we're constantly stressed. We're pushed to achieve things. We're constantly striving to get, to be like other people, to be better. We're constantly staring at our phones, at emails from the moment we get up in the morning till the moment we go to bed at night. We're not sleeping properly. We're not eating properly. We're not exercising. So consequently, because we're in this high stress state, this fight or flight state, our bodies are full of cortisol, of adrenaline. We're in a state that and we don't use it up. We're not running away from tigers. We're not running away from lions or tribes or fighting for our life or hunting for food, or because it's all there for us. We're in comfort. We don't have anything to be scared of such as that on a day-to-day basis. Of course, there are times when we do need it and we do use it, but most of the time it's building up inside of us, this cortisol, this stress, this adrenaline, this fast heart rate, this perspiration that comes out, and we don't use it, and consequently it affects our blood pressure, it affects our minds, it causes panic attacks, it causes us to be in a state of unhappiness and depression and anxiety most of the time. And we have to learn to recognize that, and we have to learn to cope with it and to deal with it. And the way to do that, there's two ways, there's lots of ways, but living in the moment is one, such as with fear. Diet is a very important one. Not eating shit, not eating processed food, not eating sugar, not eating stuff which will create more and more cortisol and anxiety and be unhealthy for your body. But mostly it's about burning that up. It's about exercise. It's about using your body. It's about moving. It's about learning how to breathe. I do breathing exercises every day. Breathing is so important, and it brings us back into the moment. Those deep breaths, the counting with the breathing, pranayama in yoga, breath holding, strengthening. But diet, exercise, breathing, learning to know when enough's enough, putting your phone away for the night, not staring at emails first thing as you get up in the morning. Don't look at your phone till 10 o'clock in the morning. That's what I don't. I don't even look at it. Don't have it in your bedroom. Learn to get a good night's sleep. So many ways that you can help your anxiety. Outside stress from family situations and ups and downs and tragedies in your life is always going to be there. That's part of life. It's part of living. But if you're doing the best you can to deal with that anxiety and keep it balanced, diet, exercise, breathing, living in the moment, recognizing those stress situations, being kind to yourself, sleeping properly, it's all essential. It's all essential. So I wanted to share those couple of things with you today. And thank you all for your support with the channel as ever. Carpe Diem, seize the day today. Please subscribe, please like the videos, please share them if you think they're helpful to others, and just means more people see them. Thank you for listening to me. Much love to you. Stay focused, stay strong. Carpe Diem.